I don't expect anyone to believe this. Not really. But I have nothing left to lose, not even pain. If this reaches you, it means the marrow held long enough for someone to hear me. These are not words etched in ink or typed on a keyboard. These are the scratches I made with what remained of my arm bones, ground down, jagged, yet enough to gouge the truth into the wood beneath my cell. I am writing this because my hands are gone. They took them. She took them. I should start at the beginning. But the beginning isn't a clean place. It bleeds into everything, like the rot that spreads under skin before anyone sees the wound. I was a forensic pathology student when this all started. Young, arrogant, hungry for things that weren't mine. The program was elite. Only a dozen were accepted a year, and I got into something that felt like luck. But it wasn't. Looking back now, it was something else. A pulling, a summoning. Our professor, Dr. Hadlow, was older than the university itself. He looked embalmed, skin too tight around the cheekbones, eyes too alert to be human. He never blinked during lectures. His slides weren't digital. They were projected from old negatives, gruesome, detailed, and oddly modern for such archaic equipment. "You must learn to listen," he'd always say. Corpses whisper more than the living scream. The others thought it was just an eccentric metaphor. I didn't. Not after what I saw on the third week. That was when they brought out the unnamed cadaver. We weren't supposed to touch it without gloves. Protocol. But as I leaned closer, nose near the exposed rib cage, something cold slid across my mind like a wet cloth. A thought not mine. A whisper not heard with ears. Help me write. I jerked back. No one else reacted. No one heard it. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. I could still feel it crawling in my spine. The next morning, I came back early. I had to see the cadaver again. Had to be sure I wasn't losing my mind. But it wasn't there. Instead, there was a note taped to the steel table. "You heard her. Come tonight." No name. No signature. Just those words. I should have run. Should have dropped out, called the police. Anything normal. But obsession is louder than reason. I went back that night. To the dissection lab. Lights off. Silence thick enough to choke on. I expected someone to meet me. But I was alone. Until the slab groaned. The body was back. Only it wasn't just a body anymore. Its jaw was unstitched. Its mouth moved. No voice, but a low grinding of teeth on tongue. Then she turned her head toward me. That's the first time I knew it was a she. Her eyes opened, cloudy and pale but focused. Focused on me. And then she raised her hand. Slowly. Fingers trembling, bones clacking. She pointed at me, and I couldn't move. "I've been waiting," she whispered. But it wasn't her mouth speaking. It was mine. I heard my voice say those words, though I hadn't opened my lips. I felt the sound rip through my throat like a blade, leaving blood and silence behind. That night didn't end. It stretched, folded in on itself like a dream within a death. I woke on the floor hours later, hands numb, fingernails torn from clawing at the tiles. The body was gone, but my hands had begun to ache, deep inside, as though something inside the bone was shifting. The next week, everything changed. My classmates started vanishing. First Cara, then Neil, then Mateo. Each time, they left nothing behind except bloodied gloves and fingernail scratches on their desks. No investigation. No announcement. Dr. Hadlow just acted like they never existed. When I asked about them, he simply said, "Sometimes, the dead pull back what belongs to them." That's when I started writing everything down. The whispers in my head. The shadows that moved behind the cadaver freezer. The scratching in my ears whenever I looked too long at a skull. But I never showed anyone. Who could I trust? Then the dream started. She was always there, the unnamed woman. Naked, skin peeled back to reveal ink-stained bones. She sat at a desk carved from femurs, and instead of writing with pens, she scraped with her own fingers, down to the knuckle, etching words into ivory. I could never read them. Until one night I saw my name. Write it or lose what you won't give. I woke to blood pooling under my sheets. My fingers were broken, shattered from the inside. That's how it began. That's how she started taking, one bone at a time. And each night, the dreams got clearer. She was building something. A book, made of our stories, our confessions, our failures. Every student who'd ever entered that lab was there. Some as ink, some as parchment, some as quills made from tendon and tooth. And I was next. Dr. Hadlow wasn't just a professor. He was her scribe, a servant. He collected us like chapters. By the time I realized this, it was too late. I woke up in a stone room. I don't remember how I got there. No windows, no door, just a slab, a pile of bones. Mine. My hands were gone. The stumps had been cauterized by something far older than fire. And beside me was a single phrase scratched into the wall. You have one story left. Make it count. So here I am, scraping the edge of my radius across the floor, listening to my own breath echo as the last reminder of flesh. I am telling you this because someone needs to know the bodies you dissect are not silent. They remember, they collect, and when you dig too deep, they dig back. I hear her now, pacing, waiting for the final period. But I'm not giving her a clean ending. I'm carving this tale so ragged, so raw, that it splinters evener. And if she takes me fully, if I become another verse in her book, let it be the one that screams back. Let it be the one that warns. She lives in the silence of the autopsy room. She feeds on curiosity. And she's still hungry. She doesn't speak in words anymore. Not like we understand them. Not since I started resisting. Her language now is in pressure. In the creaking of my joints, the tightness of my skull, the sudden rush of memories that aren't mine. I feel her in my spinal fluid, in the tiny cracks forming inside what's left of my arms. She's in me, but I haven't let her right through me. Not yet. The others gave in. They always do. Some begged, some screamed, but most just wrote, because that's what she wants, for us to write her story, to give her form through memory. Each victim is a chapter, every mutilation a paragraph, and the bones, they're her paper. I used to think I was stronger than the others, that my fear was somehow purer, that I could twist it into resistance. But fear doesn't keep her away. It feeds her. She feeds on what we try to hide. Last night, she showed me my mother's face. I hadn't thought of her in years. Not since she locked herself in the basement and wouldn't come out for 3 days. Not since the neighbors smelled rot and broke the window, only to find her fingers sewn together and eyes cut into perfect circles. My mother never believed in ghosts, but she believed in whispers. Now I know why. She had heard the same voice I did, and she had tried to silence it with needles and thread. I wonder if her fingers were taken too, if she's writing on some other wall, in some other place, or maybe she already became ink. It's getting harder to remember what I was before. My name feels foreign in my mouth. I try to speak it sometimes, but the moment I do, the room bends. The walls breathe. My bones throb. She doesn't want me to remember who I am. She only wants me to remember what I've seen, what I've felt, what I've done. There's no light here, only the pale green glow that comes from the cracks in the stone, like fungus or veins. It pulses when I speak too loudly, so I try to whisper, but even my breath makes her stir. Sometimes I think I can hear the others scratching from beyond the wall. Not with hands. No, none of us have those anymore. But with teeth, with knuckles, with bones like mine. They're all still writing. They never stop writing, even after they've been taken. And when I sleep, or what passes for sleep in this hell, I see their manuscripts. They're not books, not scrolls. They're structures. Massive cathedral-like towers of splintered femurs and phalanges, spiral staircases made from jawbones, stained glass windows made from ligaments stretched thin until they shine. Each word we etch is a brick, each confession a floor. She lives in those towers. She rules them, and each time one of us finishes, she adds it to the skyline of her domain. Sometimes, I wonder if she was ever alive, or if she's always been this, a collector pain, a queen of bone and memory, shaping her kingdom one scream at a time. But I digress. My bones are blunting. The edge of my radius is now chipped, and every stroke against the wall sends lightning into what's left of my shoulder. But I have to keep going. You need to know how deep this goes. Because she's not just in the lab. She's everywhere. Anywhere there's silence and death. In morgues, in autopsy theaters, in old cemeteries where the ground never quite settles. She's under the fingernails of every mortician who ever heard a corpse twitch. She's a shadow behind a mirror when you study your own face too long and wonder what it'll look like once the skin slips off. She's not a ghost. She's a process. She waits for you to pick up the scalpel, for you to ask too many questions, for you to open the wrong chest cavity and find something still beating. That's what happened to Dr. Hadlow. Yes, I saw it. The day I confronted him, I thought I was ready. I sharpened the end of my ulna to a point, tucked it into my sleeve like a shiv. I had spent days crawling through vents, following the moaning wind that always preceded her presence, and I found him, alone, staring into a mirror. His lab coat was soaked with ink, not black, not blue, bone ink, the kind that bleeds from marrow when it's boiled under pressure. He was muttering names of students, and every time he said one, a letter formed across his forehead, carved itself there, deep, red. My name was next. I didn't aim for his chest. I went for his mouth, because that's where she speaks through him. I stabbed upward, bone into soft palate, and twisted until I felt something pop. Not tissue, not flesh, but her. Something hissed out of him, cold, metallic, like steam from a rusted vent. His body crumpled, but something else remained, a shape, smokeless smoke, all teeth and pages fluttering in the dark. She wasn't mad. She was curious. I was the first to fight, and she liked that. That's when she brought me here. Her sanctum, her library, the final cell where she keeps the ones who won't break easily. I think she wants to savor me, or maybe mold me into a scribe like Hadlow, but I won't let her, even if it means scraping until there's nothing left but dust and whisper, even if it means chewing the words into my own ribs and leaving them for someone to read. Are you reading this? Good. Then I'm still here, still fighting. There's more to tell, so much more, but I hear her again. She's closer now, not pacing, not watching. She's waiting for the ending, but I'm not giving her one yet, because stories only end when you let them, and I'm not done screaming. She's changed the room again. I woke to find the floor slick, not with blood, no, that would be too simple, but with something like it, thicker, gelatinous, slime-colored and threaded with pale hair. It moved when I breathed. It twitched when I coughed. Every time I blinked, I swore it formed letters just long enough for my brain to almost read. Almost. I'm starting to think this room isn't real. Or maybe it's a reflection. A copy of a copy, like tissue degraded under a microscope. She doesn't build spaces with walls and doors. She builds them with memory, with what we fear. And she knows mine better than I ever did. The walls aren't stone anymore. They're rib cages. Hundreds of them. Curved, arched, jutting outward like cathedral supports. If I crawl too close, I can hear them breathing. Not the hollow rasp of air, but the painful gasp of lungs crushed under weight. Some of them still have hearts dangling inside. Still beating. Slow. Rhythmic. Like a warning. I don't know how long I've been here. There's no time in this place. Only bone and voice. When I sleep, I wake to the same moment. When I scream, the echoes return in someone else's voice. A woman, a child, An old man begging not to be open again. She makes us relive what we caused and what we watched. I keep dreaming of a cadaver we named Patient 13, the one we weren't supposed to examine. Female, mid-30s. Cause of death, classified. That was all the file said. But I remember the body. I remember how her teeth were stitched shut, how her wrists had been severed and sewn with threads made of hair. Human hair. I remember asking Hadlow, why hair? And he just smiled. They listened better that way. I didn't understand what he meant until the stitches came undone. No one believed me when her jaw unhinged on its own, when the mouth gaped wide, and a second tongue slithered from beneath the first. They said I was sleep-deprived, stressed, hallucinating, but I watched it wrap around Kara's wrist. I watched it pull. The lights shorted out for just 3 seconds. When they came back, Kara was gone. All that remained was a fingernail, still warm. No report was filed. No campus alert. No police. Just a new note on the whiteboard in our lab. Patient 14, male, subject unstable. They met me. She rewrites the narrative to erase resistance. I know that now. I've stopped trusting my memories. They change when I close my eyes. Some are rewritten to protect me, others to punish me, but none are true anymore. Except this. When she takes your hands, you don't bleed. You dream. You fall into a kind of sleep, so deep it digs backward. You're a child again, or a corpse. You forget language, forget gravity. And when you wake up, the world feels softer because your body is no longer yours. It's hers. She doesn't need you to die. That's not her way. She needs you to break. Quietly, slowly, with awareness. She wants every inch of you to understand what's happening. Every inch but your skin, which is the first thing she unlearns for you. I've tried everything to keep myself whole. I bit through my tongue to stay awake. I smashed my knees to avoid walking into her light. I used the stubs of my arms to gouge warnings into the bone of the floor. But nothing stops her, because she isn't in the room. She is the room. She is the space between each scream. And she's almost ready to finish me. I know what comes next. She'll give me a choice. It's always a choice, even if neither option means survival. She'll offer me my hands back. That's her trick. She'll let me feel them again, just for a moment. Fingers twitching, alive. And then she'll ask me, would you like to use them? If I say yes, she'll give me something to write with. A pen carved from spine, ink made from ocular fluid, and she'll lay a piece of skin before me, pale and still warm like parchment. And I'll have to write, not my story, hers. That's how she infects the world. That's how she gets out. Through people like me. People who think they're stronger, smarter, more curious than cautious. We write her into the world, into textbooks, into case files, into those morbid anatomy blogs or creepy YouTube videos. Yes, she spreads through story. The more detail you give her, the more space she takes. The more readers she has, the more places she can grow. A whisper in a lecture hall, a passage in an autopsy report, a caption under a photograph of something that shouldn't have moved. You might have already seen her without knowing it. She wears you to stay hidden. She hides in terms like undetermined trauma or unusual tissue response. But if you've ever stared at a corpse's face and thought it was about to speak, that was her. If you've ever looked into an MRI and seen movement where there was none, that was her too. And if you've ever found words carved under your fingernails when you woke from a dream, then she's already watching you. Scratch that. She's writing you. I don't have long now. The green glow is gone. The floor is no longer slick. It's dry, flaky, like ash. She's preparing the parchment. I can feel the skin tightening against my ribs. Soon, she'll stretch it flat, flatten it against bone, and lay the pen beside me. This time, I won't use it. This time, I won't write for her. I'll carve this into the wall with the last sharp edge of my ulna, even if it snaps, even if it hollows me out like the others. Because if someone finds this, if you find this, then I need you to understand. Don't read aloud. Don't copy. Don't share. That's how she travels. Through the telling. Through the attention. She wants to be known. Don't give her that. Forget me. Forget this place. And whatever you do, don't pick up the pen. But you won't forget, will you? You're still here. Still reading. You're doing exactly what she wants. Every word I carve pulls you deeper. The jagged letters, the frayed grammar, those aren't flaws. They're hooks, ink made from pain and marrow. And now they're inside you. I can feel her shifting, turning in the space between this story and your breath. That's how she reaches out. Through empathy, through attention, through the act of listening to suffering. That's her gate. And you just opened it. I warned you. I did everything I could. I bit through my own shoulder to keep myself from writing this. I rammed my skull into the bone wall until the white leaked from my ears. But even silence doesn't help once she decides you're ready. You never needed to meet her face to face. She's already been studying yours. And now that you've listened this far, I should tell you the truth. This story isn't being written for you. It's being written into you. She's turning you into a page. Even now you feel it, don't you? That is along your skin. Like something's crawling just beneath the surface. That isn't a trick of your nerves. That's her rearranging the fibers, stretching your dermis, preparing the parchment, preparing you. But before she finishes, I need to finish myself. This part matters. The final confession. The reason I ended up here. You think I was just a student? A victim? No. I helped her once. Long before I understood what she was. Long before the lab. Before Hadlow. Before the cadavers started whispering. It began when I was a teenager. When my father died. He was a mortician. Cold, methodical, obsessed with silence. He had this little notebook he kept in his nightstand drawer. I wasn't supposed to touch it, but of course I did. Inside were drawings, human bodies, split in half. Notes about rituals. Diagrams of skin being folded like paper. And one phrase repeated again and again. The book must be bound in the living. I didn't understand it then. But I do now. That notebook was her seed. He was one of the first to find her. And I was the next step. She needed someone to carry the story forward. And I did. I took that notebook to university. I used the diagrams to impress Hadlow. I earned my place in that lab not through merit, but through offering. That book was how she entered the school. The others didn't disappear because they were weak. They disappeared because I led them there, because I opened the gate. She chose me because I was curious enough to see death as a question. And now I'm the answer. She doesn't need me to die. She needs me to become scripture, to be remembered. Every crack of my bone, every gouged word, every fragment you're now absorbing through your eyes. That's her writing itself into you. There is no end. Not really. Only transmission. That's the truth behind every cursed story, every forbidden case, every unsettling legend. They are living texts, copies made in flesh, passed from speaker to listener, from writer to reader, from scream to silence. And if you're still reading now, she's already inside your ribs. Don't believe me? Try this. Hold your breath. Do you feel it? The tightness in your chest? That's her. That's where she starts. She curls behind your lungs like a folded note, unseen, waiting. And now that you've read this far, she owns the ending. But I'm not done yet. There's still one thing I haven't told you. You don't escape by refusing her. You escape by becoming unusable. That's why I broke myself. That's why I carved the words with bone instead of voice. Why I screamed until my vocal cords shredded. Why I stopped sleeping, stopped thinking, stopped cooperating. She doesn't want madness. She wants meaning. She feeds on clarity, confession, articulation. So if you want to survive, You must make yourself unreadable. Become illegible. Speak in tongues. Cut out your language. Mangle the message. Swallow the ending. And if that fails, burn what you are. Not just your body, but your story. I'm almost done now. My left arm is hollow. The ulna snapped 10 minutes ago. I've been scraping with the broken tip of my jaw, dislocating it again and again to get the right angle. My teeth are splinters, but I'll keep writing, even if the letters twist into nonsense, even if they blur into blood, because she hates that. She hates what she can't bind. She hates incoherence. So if you want to be free, then stop understanding me. Let go of logic. Let go of plot. Let go of beginning, middle, and end. Become a scream with no origin. Become a wound that doesn't bleed. Become illegible. Before she writes your fingers off. Before she drapes your skin flat on her altar and carves a sequel into your chest. Before she wraps your spine into a question mark and files you away on a shelf made of skulls. I'm fading now. I can feel her behind me, not approaching, but enveloping, like a cloak, like a sentence I can't finish. I can't.